Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be motivated by your host, Reverend John Wheeler! Now shut up! You shut up! Sit down! Shut up! Shut up!
Well, happy anniversary to me and to Alexis over there, my lovely wife. We're doing this weird podcast on a weekday. Also, our year marriage anniversary falls on a weekday, the day before Alexis's birthday. Woo. So Alexis took the week off work and is just going to drink fake and or real children's wine. Who is to say what?
What's children's wine?
It's what you give to babies to shut them up.
I want children's
Pa
wine.
Pa used to call it bourbon. I was actually trying to remember the weirder booze. What? Brandy.
I was gonna say it's brandy.
Brandy's the one I didn't get. Maybe that's why
some brandy on their gums.
Maybe that's why bourbon was funny, because everyone's like, he's probably about to say brandy, and I don't know. And she was great as Moesha. But I learned also that there's a thing called a Wisconsin Old Fashioned, which is it's like it's some sort of lot lizard hand job. No, it is old fashioned made with brandy, and it is not good.
Brandy's not good.
I find it to be good if you buy non-alcoholic eggnog and wish to correct your mistake. Brandy is a good solution for that. That actually sits in there pretty nice. Also, cooking sausage. What?
It's staticky.
Oh, it's staticky. I thought you said damn it.
No.
But yeah, so I was going to dedicate part of this podcast to the actual telling of our Las Vegas wedding. Because I realized that I tell that pieces of that story to anyone who will listen. It's because they asked, and then they're like, damn, like, I assumed your wedding might have been a little bit more interesting than like, oh, we went to this place that refinished a vintage barn to have weddings at it, and we had our wedding in there. And we thought that made us look real interesting. And our family was there, and Cousin Eddie got kind of drunk, but I guess we all did. Or whatever, and it's like, cool. And then, like, maybe Rick Fisher was there taking pictures. Like, it's hard to say. Around here, the stories are all the same. But the thing is that we were gonna get married earlier than we did. It was, like, planned in the planning phases pre-pandemic. I think for, like, October of 2020, we were going to try and do it, and we were, like, trying to figure out what we were going to do. We wanted to have something weird where we were in control. It's like, we weren't going to go to, like, a scenic barn. No one on any side of anywhere goes to any kind of church. So there was just none of that. And they were like, well, maybe we'll have it at the party room at the Volstead Emporium, or maybe we'll have it in the party room in the back of Old Country Buffet.
Oh,
or maybe
great.
my idea for the Old Country Buffet party room food fight that I've always wanted to do. Which, by the way, that was Old Country Buffet was this nasty, nasty, nasty buffet. Like, I assume that Golden Corral is, like, probably 10 times better, like, and I've never been there, and I assume that's gross, but it's probably an order of magnitude.
My sister used to work for the OCB. We would get free fucking buffet.
Oh, God. Like, I remember I went, actually, with Meredith, was this with you, or did I just tell this story?
Probably with me. We did buffet.
Oh, yeah, it's because it was when I got my glasses, so I would have been in my 20s.
God, that was the time, because that was when the day you got your glasses was the day every gross shit thing that happens at buffets happens.
Yeah. Yeah, well, then I think that's because it was always happening. And okay, so, like, I didn't get glasses up until I was 27, and I probably didn't really need them until I was maybe about 24, but it was starting to get where, like, driving was getting a little dicey, getting off the exit in time. And then, I got older, and I'm like, I kind of just wear them all the time, and it's fine. My vision's not horrendous, but driving without these would probably be foolish. And at night, maybe impossible. But anyhow, I was like, okay, this sucks. I need to finally get glasses. Like, I put it off as long as I can because I didn't want them. I lied and squinted my way through the driver's license eye test, like, every time, like, L, like, there hasn't been an X in a while, so that's probably not an H. Just using the odds. And I would, like, barely pass. They're like, oh, yeah, I guess you don't need glasses after all. And, like, my face would hurt from squinting. And, so I played that game for a while, and then I just gave in. I'm like, I want glasses. I had to stop myself from cheating at the test, too, because it's like, no, wait, I want to actually see correctly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know what that is. He's like, you can try. I'm like, if I try, I'll accidentally get it right. You'll give me shitty glasses. No. So I'm too good at this, Doc. You have to take my word for it. But yeah, so it's like I got glasses, and yeah, everything was, clearer than I even thought it would be. And we live in a disgusting world. And particularly, like, in my mid to late 20s, I lived in a very disgusting world. And Meredith lived in it with me for a lot of the time. And, so we went to Old Country Buffet, this nasty buffet, for the first time ever while I was wearing glasses. And the weird thing is this wasn't a goof. It wasn't like, oh, now that I can see, let's go really examine the skin on the gravy or whatever. Like, that's... It wasn't, like, part of the plan. We're just like, oh, it's time to go to Old Country Buffet because we're gluttonous and poor. So off we went.
Yeah.
And that was when I was just, like, going through the line, just, like, in horror. It was so different seeing all of that shit in clear HD that I literally didn't... Like, I would eat it before, and I think I even kind of liked it, depending on the location, maybe. But yeah. And it's like my parents used to take me, and it's like, oh, all the chocolate milk I could drink till I throw up, and like, yeah, that was all fun and great, but seeing it was like being punished for being a fat ass in hell. Like, they're like, oh, so you like to eat at the buffet all day, do you? And they just put you in there, and then just like all the things are just like garbage pail kids, snot, and worms just undulating, and then you're just like, and it's like the guy carving a thing is like carving your third grade teacher's head, and she's like, do your homework, and he cuts you an eye, and he's just like, aren't you hungry for a buffet? You chose the buffet door in your fucking bogus journey hell labyrinth that you got stuck in. And that's what going to Old Country Buffet was like when I got my glasses. Also, it does make the goings-on of the people around you much more clear and apparent. Like, the guy feeding his infant, not even a toddler, like a baby that can't walk yet.
It was like probably one and a half.
Maybe, but I don't know if I think that thing was probably still in crawl mode, like that young.
Maybe, yeah.
And just full, like neon green infected sinus mucus leaking down its face. Ew. And he's just giving it part of his ice cream cone, and it's just blowing snot bubbles into it. And then he's just like, here you go, baby likes it. Yeah, I'm a dad now. This isn't weird.
And then the guy behind him is just like ass crack full blown out.
Yeah, there was a lot of out ass crack. Like, I could see for miles and miles, and it was ass crack as far as the horizon. Yeah, no, that's what that was like. And I was just like, I think I ate a couple of things because we paid good money for that nasty, like, hard macaroni and cheese, or no, they didn't have, it wouldn't have been hard. They had the particularly, like, hospital yellow,
soft,
unflavorful mush soft macaroni and cheese. Which, again, yeah, it's all sweaty, like, when you can see it with your glasses. Like, no, it was actually very unpleasant. Anyway, this episode is brought to you by Old Country Buffet! Oh, my God, we're gonna lose the sponsorship. Good, fuck them. I wouldn't take their money. Not on a dare.
Pretty sure they went under.
I wouldn't eat there with a borrowed ass crack. Yeah, they're way out of business. I mean, it was pretty nasty. And but yeah, that's what happened when I got my glasses. And why was I talking about that?
I don't remember. I
was talking about wedding.
Yeah, I know. It went from wedding to.
I don't fucking know what that means.
What?
You were going to have our wedding at OCB.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Alexis, for doing my job.
That's what we definitely need. This is like doing the thing. There we go. So, right. I had this flight of fancy that I always wanted to, and I believe this might have been after I got glasses because I was like just firmly rooted in like, I don't care if we get kicked out of there forever because I'd be damned if I'm ever eating there again. But me and some people were like, we should like rent. They had one of those like close the doors. Like some poor kid would have their awful birthday party. An Old Country Buffet. Well, Grandma likes it, so that's where we're going.
I had my Sweet 16 at Cucumbers.
Oh my God. Yeah, that place was bad too. But Cucumbers, ugh. So like I just had this plan that we would reserve the party room. And then, like, all, you know, like, some group of, like, 20 grody punk rocker friends that worked at the garage at Ragstock back then or whatever, we would just load up our plates with spaghetti and mashed potatoes and all this, and like we'd wear like, I mean, probably like Ragstock, you know, I don't know, like bow ties and just ill-fitting suit clothes and go be like, it's our grandfather's 90th birthday. And of course I elected myself as, I'll talk to them, because you know I love to make reservations, whether it be for Freedom Day or, you know, Old Country Buffet. And yeah, we would just go in there, and then we would just like put a chair like against the door so like none of the employees could get into the room, and we would just have like a knockdown, drag out 80s camp movie food fight until like you couldn't see through the window anymore. Just go fucking like Hook, you know, just go batshit, throw some, and just see how long it takes them to like, you know, kick the door in or, you know, bang on it, you know, see how long it took them to even figure out what was happening in there. And then I would, like, come out of the door with just, like, spaghetti in my hair and just be like, I'll have you know my grandfather is not here yet, and this might be his last birthday, and you are ruining it by banging on the door, so could you knock it off and then just see if we can get another plate full before they call the cops?
Why did I marry you?
I don't know. I don't know why you would marry the man that never actually saw this brilliant plan through. I feel shame for that every day. So anyway, we almost got married there. But, yeah, it was almost going to be at Club Underground, and officiated by Andrew Danger Brindleson, and
Nice job.
Stumbled through that one.
It's because I've gotten it wrong on purpose so much now I can't remember which way's right ways. That's a thing, but yeah, but then COVID happened, and then we're like, well, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that, but then we realized that. It was letting up. Everybody had been, all our, you know, the old folks in the family had been vaccinated.
Ruh-roh.
Thing. Yeah, it gets blurry sometimes. Everyone was, you know, we were like, okay, like, we can make this happen. Vegas was open, but we were like, well, we'll have it around Alexis's birthday and our original anniversary, which was New Year's. And also, if we kind of do this in the weird between Christmas times, in Las Vegas, everything is like, that's the cheapest when you can go there. And then also, when we made our reservations, it was like the day after we got vaccinated. So they were still operating under the nobody's still coming here thing. So we had our actual wedding ceremony in the penthouse at the Bellagio, which has like more
fucking fancy.
And it was. It had like the room we were in had more square footage than both of our parents' houses put together. And like, you know, it was ridiculous. And how much it was supposed to be versus how much it was, like, I mean, it wasn't a ridiculous amount of money. It wasn't an obscene amount of money. It was a sacrilegious amount of money. And instead I got it for $500. just kind of like, oh, we didn't tell them it was a wedding. That was the other thing. We're just sneaking catering and a bunch of old people dressed in 1920s vintage attire up the elevator. And people are like, well, it looks like you guys are going to go do something fun. We're like, yeah. And it's like, right, because I think they were occasionally kind of trying to stop people from just partying up there.
Not to get too sidetracked, but that reminds me of the birthday that I had at Mystic Lake where Nikki came at 2 a.m. with a fucking blender to make pina coladas. And Mystic Lake was like a dry...
Yeah, they have booze there now, but they were like
back then there was like no booze.
Not only was there no bar, it was like a big deal. Like you would have gotten in trouble. And it's like, okay, well, we'll just mix our own drinks in here. And she's like, don't worry, I've got it covered. She just brought in a blender because the only thing we had was like pina coladas. She's like, do you think they'll notice?
Morning, yeah.
Yeah, like at ass o'clock in the morning. Also, we had taken some mushrooms, I think.
Yeah, they weren't great.
No, and I mixed them with like casino cheeseburgers, like to try to ease my stomach, and then we just went trudging around, which is always the recipe for kind of a bad mushroom stomach. I mean, mushrooms are a recipe for that sometimes on their own, but if you eat something really greasy and then just go for a hike, like while they're settling, like you're just gonna roll up in a ball and go like, ugh. Like, you gotta eat something simple, then eat them, then sit, and then when you feel fidgety, like you need to go for a nature walk, then you get up. That's the pattern I've discovered when doing mushrooms the old-fashioned way by eating them.
So the story of...
All right, yeah. So yeah, it turned out that like, though some things were closed for the holidays, like we couldn't go see Penn and Teller, lots of other things weren't, and everything was just extremely on the cheap. So we went to like everything that there was. Like, I never thought I would see the Blue Man Group, but we're already here. It's a hell of a deal.
Wow.
And Blue Man Group was the shit. Like, it actually... I've known who they are actually for years. I remember seeing video on, like, I don't know, probably like late night on PBS when I was like in high school or something, like showing one of their bits or whatever. And it was just like, what is this? Like, they're an art group, but it was before it was like Vegas, you know, huge. They have their own separate building. I mean, it says like Blue Man Group on the side. It's not even like, oh, they're at this hotel. They like, it's just theirs where you go and see them.
Theater.
Huh?
It's the theater.
Yeah, but they do have their own building. It's wild, like in the Vegas skyline. And yeah, that, I mean, it's hard to get into, but if you get a chance, go see it. It's kind of like, they swing wildly between just having like the house lights on and them just like drawing like a picture on a piece of paper to like a full industrial concert with guys in like glow in the dark Mad Max gear on, just like in these giant 9-inch nails like light panels.
Disappointed when they turn the lights back on. You're like, you were hotter as a.
And took their masks off because Alexis preferred them as sort of an armored, masked kettle.
Who wouldn't? I don't want to know.
Yeah.
They were hot, like as like robot men.
Yeah, I don't want to. Don't take away that fucking mystery, man.
You know what's?
Ruin it for me.
Well, it's funny that you guys mentioned that and have mentioned that before. Like whenever I've listened to a podcast that say like Annie Letterman or someone that's kind of got a lineup of female perverts, it seems to be like kind of a common thread that it's like, oh, women like porno. They just don't want to see the dude's face. It's like just anything as long as you're seeing what's happening. I'll look at the chick. I don't care. I just don't want to see the guy and just realize that because then he's like some guy that you would know that you might not like.
No, he was hot. They were hotter as sticks.
Well, yeah, it just explains the thing with like, oh yeah, just wear like this weird like mask, or better yet, don't even point the camera at your ugly face at all. Like maybe get some cool tattoos, maybe do some sit-ups, but like the second you pan up to the guy's face, it's like, ick. It's like, I don't want to know about that. Now it's just some guy at work or something. It's gross.
It's like if you eat meat, you don't want to know.
You don't want to see the pipe getting laid or the sausage getting made.
Yeah.
Or the pipe getting laid.
Yeah. You're laying some pipe. That's funny.
I like how you like skipped everything and you haven't like started at how we got on the airplane.
Oh yeah.
I like how fun that was.
Well, so this was the whole plan was to go, to Vegas and blah blah blah. So we crashed at her parents' place on the couch so we could all go to the airport together because we managed to have a destination wedding that worked, and that's the thing that people are dumbfounded by. And it's like, well, we just cut all the right corners and kind of planned all the right things. Oh, and here's the other reason it worked. We're not a bunch of delusional idiots like most people that are like, oh, we're going to go to British Columbia and have it in a field. And we're going to have 100 of our oldest relatives all meet us there. And like, just where they don't know how to make reservations with an iPhone. So it's just kind of like, come on, girl, we gotta go get her a ride, and then we gotta stop the ceremony partway through to go get a pint of fluid taken out of your uncle's back, and whatever. Like, all of that shit where we're just like, okay, everyone who wants to go, who's able-bodied and of sound mind, may make their own plans to also go. It will be at this place at this time. And it worked. Like, we had like a 12 or 14 person little wedding party, and it was just our immediate family mostly and some of their significant others, but that's it. And it actually went off without a hitch. Well, we got hitched without a hitch.
Sure.
Oh, okay, what went wrong?
We didn't get our room.
Well, we did, and then everything was fine. Like, that's...
Oh, that's because you were already dressed up. I had 30 minutes to take a shower, do my hair, makeup.
It was, okay, yes, it was like a stressful wedding bump in the road, but if you add all the problems together of our wacky Vegas destination wedding, it doesn't even add up to one minor issue in most people's giant clusterfuck right here wedding. So, like, I don't really iron it out as like, oh, well, there was a big problem. It's like, did we end up getting married and everything was fine? Well, then yes. So, but anyway, a big problem that almost happened was Delta 8 edibles were becoming all the rage. And I discovered, and I think I've yelled about this on this podcast too, it's like, I can hit a Delta 8 vape pen and I'm fine. It's almost better than regular weed to a certain degree. Like, because I don't want ultra powerful death weed. Like, I'm not that maladjusted. It just gives me anxiety. But it's like, oh, so like, and then also someone had said incorrectly that it's like, well, you got to eat, never listen to stoners. You got to eat like more. It doesn't add up to like, what? So it's like, yeah. That was totally bogus.
I can't even believe a stoner would tell you that. Like,
they say lots of things like that. And I said this years ago. I think I was talking to Ben Hurley about it, that like how junkies and addicts ruin like Reddit forums about best uses for drugs because they're like, these don't even work. I had to take 50 of them and shove 10 up my butt and mix it with a bottle of vodka. And it turns out like one would have fucked me up completely. And it's like, okay, you're just addicted to like fentanyl. That's why this doesn't work for you. So kind of same. So anyway, like I ended up, there was this like sucker that I should have just been maybe licking some of, but I just was like, well, the whole thing isn't even that much. So I just crunched it up and ate it. And this has happened to me a few times. I keep trying to aim really low and I still keep getting fucked. Now I've given up, but I kept getting fucked over by Delta 8 edibles, where it basically gives you at least if you're me, a mushroom trip without the soul. So like, oh yeah, you'll see yourself age into an old person in the mirror, but you don't realize that that's old you from your past life, and that's why you look like your grandpa, and it's amazing, and blah, blah, blah. Nope, nothing but fear. No, the mushrooms hold your hand. The Delta 8 just like keel hauls you over the side of the SS Terror. And, so, like, I woke up in, like, our short, like, 4-hour little sleep, because the flight was at 5 in the morning or whatever. Just completely panicking, because it just feels like you're dying. It doesn't even feel like you're on too many drugs. It actually just feels like a panic. But that's the thing, like, mushrooms and LSD and stuff feel like what the good part of death would be or something, where you're just like, oh, I feel like everything makes sense. Like, it's okay, time is a flat circle and an illusion, or whatever. And it just gives you all the craziness and none of those feelings of connectedness or whatever. So I woke up, sheer terror, thought I was dying, realized it was just the drugs, but even then it was, like, really hard to deal with. And I was just trying to figure out, like, just, tell your parents that I'm tripping balls and freaking out so I at least don't sit here having to hide it from them. And then ultimately, it's like I'd stashed away a half of a Xanax, and it took that. Then I was having fun, because then that took all the anxiety off it, so then I was just on drugs. I also had to pep talk myself in the bathroom and just be like, it's like, one of your heroes went to Vegas on a head full of goddamn freakish nightmare dreams, and you think you can't do the same? And yeah, it ended up working out. But there's like a funny caveat at the end. At one point, Alexis's mom had fallen prey to the same trap and ate like a whole Delta 8 thing, and had the same exact like panic, like her husband had to like hold her and make sure it was okay and everything that I needed. And she was just absolutely freaked out of her mind. And then later, here's the punchline, she was like, okay, wait, John just like got on an airplane, like went to the TSA like this? Like, yeah, it was a lot. Like, oh my fucking God. Like, it's like the Xanax didn't really kick all the way until we were basically like on the plane. And I finally was just kind of like, no, we're just riding an airplane, which I also normally don't like, but I was having fun then. And then we got there, and I had a few drinks for breakfast, and yeah, everything was all right. And Peter Pepper was there. It was a weird, strange confluence of stuff. But yeah, that's sort of an interesting point that I also liked. Oh yeah, and then even before we got to her parents' house, probably while I was sitting there crunching on this thing I should only have licked a tiny part of, I've never seen a living possum in real life anywhere. I've seen them dead on the side of the road. I
have possum stories.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. But we saw one looking right through it, like we were walking to the backyard, to the garage, and like through the fence in our neighbor's yard, we just saw this like very close to us, just like possum, just like smiling at us through the fence. And we're like, it's the marriage possum. And he brought us good luck.
Well, mine isn't such a great story. So this is when I lived in Washington, and I was like driving back up the mountain to get home, and fucker walks right into the road, and I literally slow down. Just slow down to like almost stop, and he just continues to walk into my wheel.
He just very slowly crawled under your tire.
Committed suicide. I tried to, like, get away and, like, not hurt this possum, but it's just, like, he was determined to fucking die.
Yeah, that's what they like to do the most, is die.
I've just never
That's why it was so weird to see a living one.
It was a weird thing because normally, roadkill accidents, they happen so quickly. This was, like, in slow fucking motion. Like,
You just slowly crunched over the suicide possum. That's like the opposite story of when I got out of my car because a giant black alligator snapping turtle was just in the middle of this dirt road I was driving on, and like I was like, oh, I'll like get him out of the way. So I had a black aluminum baseball bat in my car, and I went, because I know snapping turtles mean business. So I went and kind of like nudged him in the butt to like get him to like go across the road, the way he was already facing. Yes. And he just turned around and like bit on the bat, and I'm just like playing tug of war with this like. So I was actually able to just kind of drag him over to towards the side more, and then like I got the bat away from him and went running away. And got in my car and drove off, and hopefully he didn't get my license plate number, because then he'd follow me.
I tried to rescue Turtle. I did rescue him, but he fucking hissed at me.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like shocked. I was like, I know you motherfuckers hissed.
I'm surprised this guy didn't make a sound at me. He seemed like he was pretty mad.
And shit, but I still picked it up and helped him across. But like, oh, all right.
Now I know
Welcome.
that it actually would have been safer for me to pick up the snapping turtle from his like hind legs and just move him like that, because they can't really get back. But I didn't know. I hadn't learned that from snake discovery and various other things yet, that you can actually just do that and you'll be fine. All I've ever remember is like, my uncle once like found a snapping turtle and we were on a camping trip, and he got him to bite clean through an old license plate that he had, and it's like, damn. Jesus Christ. He's like, look at this. Just bent it.
Snake discovery for our gift.
Oh yes, and shout out to Ed and Emily from Snake Discovery, who will not ever see this, but they gave us a thing of their coffee, their brand coffee that they have, their cold-blooded coffee. They're like a reptile-friendly coffee thing, and there's a Snake Discovery like a label to they have their own sub thing of it. I've yet to try it, but we went to a reptile convention they were running and gave them chocolates, and they were very sweetly came and found, because we don't really eat a lot of chocolate or anything. Like, well, they look pretty. I've seen on their channel that they're a couple of chocoholics, so. They kind of like tracked us down in the midst of the crowd to be like, oh, thank you so much for the gift. You guys want some of our coffee? And I was like, yeah. It was very nice of them.
Good trade.
Yeah, it was very sweet. Well, they didn't have to come and fight. They could have waited for us to leave and been like, or not done anything. But yeah, it was very sweet of them. Yeah, and they, for those that don't know, they're in Minnesota. They're in Maplewood. They have a brick and mortar store with a full reptile zoo. They breed and sell animals, but they also have like big crazy ones that they don't sell, or maybe nobody sells. Like Rex, their famous alligator, and
Doug.
some very large. Yeah, Doug, who's a very large boa who you can hang out with, and some other ones that are very big that might not be as friendly, but you can look at them in their natural habitat, sitting on a big rock, as large snakes enjoy. And also like green tree python. They have some big snakes there. Like they have some retics and reticulated pythons and Burmese pythons. Yeah, some of the biggest. They do have a anaconda too, right? He's not out in the tiny. Yeah, the anaconda. And the anaconda is the world's largest species of snake.
No, retics are.
Is retics bigger? I thought anacondas were a little bit. Okay, so retics are the biggest. You're liable to see both if you go there. And they also have like a huge YouTube channel, which you should watch. It's if you like reptiles, it's very interesting. So anyway, yeah, just generally the Vegas thing was such a well-oiled, wacky adventure. We managed to go to a thing. Every day. We went to the Mob Museum.
You mean you actually did stuff on your vacation, not just wander around like a drunken...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's yeah. Meredith and I and our friend Derek went to Vegas when we were really young in like 2003.
We stayed there for like over a week.
We were there for 9 days.
Fucking mistake.
And
oh my god.
Derek and I had the booze shakes on the flight home because we're like, oh my god, like
I couldn't handle any more fucking sounds from the goddamn slot machines. I was just gonna like.
Yeah, we just gambled and drank.
That's it. Stayed at the Hojo.
Yeah, it's funny though.
The shuttle bus.
Remember when we were there and I was like, I don't want to, like, it didn't exactly work out like this. It just did because everything was cheap. It's like, when I come back here, I want to come back as like a high roller and actually like stay somewhere nice.
And you did?
Yeah, it's like we got married in the Bellagio. By the way, our room in the Bellagio was fun too because there was like plenty of room for like catering and to get married and hang out. Like 12 people or 14 ultimately, I think, with the officiant and like his photographer. Like, it didn't even feel like when there's like 14 people in like even someone's kind of nice house, if they're all in one room at once, you kind of have to start shouldering past people a little bit. It didn't even like, it was like no one was there. Like, it was completely insane. Like, and then our room had like 2 bathrooms with like hot tubs and there was TVs in the mirrors. I made some TikTok videos where we were just like watching wrestling in the mirror in the bathroom. And he's like, well, while you're getting ready.
I took a bath.
Yeah, we took a bath in the hot tub.
Talk about how the place was haunted.
Yeah, and that was the thing I actually wrote down, is how it was one of the only... So, like, I'm not a big, like, oh, I saw a ghost type of person. I'm usually like, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why you might think that, or if it just feels weird somewhere. And anywhere someone's brought me where they're like, oh, this is totally haunted, I'm like, I don't even feel uncomfortable. Matter of fact, I feel I can't remember the last time I felt quite so cozy down here. Like, it's usually just, like, fine. And I'm like, there's nothing weird. It's a creepy-looking place, but that's kind of a softball pitch, you know? We're like, yeah, look how... Obviously, it's haunted. Look how scary it is. I'm like, I don't know. But, like, this place, like, it didn't really feel scary, but there was a, the setup of the room, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's like, there was a kind of, like, I guess, a dining room-ish area of, like, the main big area. And where there's a table set up. And the weird thing is we had, Alexis's grandpa Bob and his wife were there. And Bob is in his late 70s, and we all dressed in, like, old-timey kind of, you know, I don't know, like, mobster, fancy Vegas, you know, that was the whole thing. And he went, like, way, way old school with, like, a waistcoat and a hat and, like, everything. And I kept thinking, like, Bob was already there. Like, I kept looking over at the table being like, I swear it's Grandpa Bobby's, they're not even here yet. Like, it was driving me insane. And it turns out, like, other people kept seeing it too.
That's cool.
And it just continually, like, and they described the same guy. Like,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like, and it was just, like, out of the corner of your eye, there's an old dude dressed in old, like, fedora, those clothes, like, from that era. Like, not, you know, a computer nerd fedora, like, the real... Like, God, I keep thinking he's there. I keep thinking there's someone else here. Like, and that's the thing that I don't think people describe very well when they kind of maybe, like, see a haunted thing or whatever that actually is that you're experiencing, but is that the notion that, my God, there's just someone there. Like, it feel like every bit of it, except for actual sounds of breathing or maybe whatever. But, you know, when there's another human in the room, it feels just a little warmer and wetter because there's another human in the room right there. And it just kept happening to everybody. Every time we turned around, we're like, wow, I swear to God, there's just someone sitting there and no one else is here.
For me, now, this could be just me being crazy. But when I was visiting my dad at the nursing home he was at before he died, I would have... things called what I call imprints. And it's basically just kind of seeing out of the corner of your eye or like just seeing it for like, you know, a split second. I'd see somebody just sitting there. Yeah. Or whatever, but it felt like, you know, when you look into a light and you close your eyes.
Yeah, like there's just a sunspot left.
There's a sunspot, and it, you know, and then but you can see the shadows around. Yeah. And so it kind of reminds me of that. And I'm a very, very skeptical person, so I don't like be like, oh, it's ghosts or whatever.
No, that's the and I'll get to the thing at the bar, but that was a thing for me where I'm like, I'm not like no, shut up. But I'm more like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I've not really seen it, so I don't know what to tell you. Like, and I'm not hoping to see a ghost. I don't even care. Like, I'm not trying to prove or disprove anything on the fucking internet. Like, I do not give a shit. But I'm like, my God, there is just an old mobster sitting at this table.
I would say
every time I turn around.
Conventional, like.
Well, I mean, I'm also.
Shit than
I don't know. Yeah, and I mean, I've also seen other weird stuff, but just not specifically like Ghost from an era when the most bodies got buried under that place. Like, it's very,
Yes.
and by the way, there's a lot. Like, the Bellagio was one of those, like, that was one of the first ones before the mob completely let go of Vegas. Like, they were, yeah. So.
It's on the ruins of the old, like.
Was it the Sands?
No, the. Sultan or something like that.
Oh, yeah. It was built on another one from, like, the hella mobbed up era. Like, the Sinatra, like watching while some guys pummel some dude, and they're just like, you're going a little rough on him. It's like, we gotta do it, Frankie. He's like, I'm not here to tell you to do your job. And he leaves. Yeah, so we saw that guy. But then, one of the, maybe, like, the weirdest physical things I've ever seen was, there was a bar. And I bought, again, it's like we got catering, and I just bought a couple of liquor bottles and a shaker. Oh, it was on the dunes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Former set of the dunes.
That was like a big one with the Rat Pack and stuff, too, and all that stuff. Yeah, the dunes. Jabba's barge on the Dune Sea. So anyway, there was, we got like this bit of throwaway shaker and stuff so we could make like fancy drinks at, whatever. After the ceremony and have a hoot. And,
The other deal, you want to save money on a wedding.
Well, yeah, it's like we just did, if we had told anyone, like, that it was a wedding, it's like the catering was just a thing we had delivered. It wasn't like, we need your wedding package. It's like, oh, that'll be $9,000 more than this would have been. None of that.
Hit up Party City, hit up Total Wine.
Yeah, we did a lot of clever things. So I had an ice bucket that I, got to, like, shake the drinks with or whatever. And I had set the lid on the bar in the little kitchen area. And I'd set it in like far away from the edge. Like, not like hanging off the edge or whatever. And like I noticed it moving out of the corner of my eye. And then just continued to watch it sort of in like, and I'm pretty sure I think Deb was watching it too. You saw it. And it just like slid, and then it just like fell off like a Ouija board thing going by itself.
Was there any condensation on it?
Now, that's what some people said, but it wasn't really that wet there. It was like, it felt like this. I was like, maybe.
Okay.
But it was also just dead flat, and then also what started it going. Like, literally, I watched it start, and then...
like, if there was condensation buildup, yeah, but that's... Yeah, I have no idea.
No, I hadn't really, like, shook. Like, I only had the lid on long enough to bring the ice in, and then I just took it back off and started making drinks. Like, it wasn't really, like... I mean, it's a stretch to... Like, normally it's a stretch to accuse a ghost of being the thing. This was whenever something's a backbend to explain why it isn't weird, it's kind of like, it's like, well, it was probably this. Like, yeah, it kind of wasn't even wet, though. Well, the table's probably, like, diagonal. Like, no, it isn't. It's like, it was very, like, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And it was interesting because not that I'm going to sit here and pretend I know how the great beyond and paranormal physics actually works, but I will say that it did, from where we kept seeing the guy at the table, it was radiating out from exactly where his chair would have been, like, and it just like it was something. He probably was hoping we were going to make him a drink, and plenty got left out, so the tribute was probably had.
That would have been cool if you guys made him a drink, though. Like,
yeah.
Claus.
Yeah, you gotta leave one out for your spooky homies. Yeah, and then that was the actual wedding part. But all around it, we went to all these things. Like, we went and saw a Rat Pack tribute band, which was like one of the best things I've ever seen live music wise. Like, because it was in a room like the size of Club Underground or something, kind of maybe angled a little better, but it was like approximately that size. Like, the stage had, like, a real backstage that could obviously disappear to and stuff. But it was, like, three guys that did a very good impression of Sinatra Sammy Davis Jr., and Dean Martin, like, telling the jokes and actually hitting the notes, and they had, like, a full brass section. Like, it was, like, really great, and Alexis and I and my folks, like, had, like, a quarter table up front, and, like, Dean Martin would just go, how you doing, darling? He came and shook my hand. He was like, ooh, prison, huh? Well, we all gotta go sometime. And it was very, very great, and they'd say some jokes that, like, I saw some older people in the audience get a little, like, he's like, and, I want to remind you guys that in this room it is 1961 and there's no internet left or yet to complain on. Like, it was good. And Blue Man Group was good. And we went to see the Meow Wolf Omega Mart thing, the, like, Rick and Morty interdimensional grocery store live art exhibit thing that's in Vegas. I don't know. If you're ever in Vegas, go to that. Like, it's a lot of fun. I could barely even manage to explain it, but it's like there's obviously a lot of, like, little mini YouTube documentaries about it, and it's quite something. And you can either, like, play, it's like you could buy real products off the shelves, but then you walk by one that's like the door looks weird, and it actually, like, opens up into this infinite hallway of, like, fake pop cans that get more and more smeary, and then it opens up in this underground cave that just has lasers and a rave going on it. It's like, yeah, it's fucking bonkers. And there is a narrative you can follow, but we were all kind of hungover from the wedding, and didn't really last in the game, but one thing I discovered about it that I absolutely loved, which was I figured out all the random, like, grocery store telephones into the break rooms and whatever were all connected. You could actually use them. And so, like, I started dialing one of the numbers I found, and someone was like, hello? And I'm like, who is this? Like, oh, this is someone else in the game. The phones. I'm like, okay. And I hung up. I'm like, I see. So then there's this whole thing where you're in this dirty, intentionally grimy employee break room, like, for part of the game. I just went and sat in this chair that was by one of the phones, and it would keep ringing because people every once in a while would call it. But I would answer and just be like, Omega Mart. And they'd be like, I'd be like, you're in a lot of danger right now. There's someone right behind you. Please hang up and run. And it just, like, everyone would laugh. So I'd be like, who is that? And I'm like, I don't know, someone who's probably terrified right now, hopefully. Like, I started answering the phone. And that was enjoyable. And telling people weird, scary things. What else? Yeah, I don't know. The Mob Museum was a lot of fun. It was what it was. I don't know. We went to Fremont Street, saw people dragging their old wedding dresses through pee. Yeah, but Grandma Bob thought it was very funny when Alexis was making fun of the various derelicts on Fremont Street.
Yeah, Tiff tried to buy weed off Fremont Street, and it turned out to be oregano.
She's lucky that's all it was.
I know, but it was just some, like, crackhead lady that, like, she happened to find because she was just, like, jonesing. She was like, this was back when she had to smoke a lot of weed.
Right, when we did the math to figure out how much weed she'd smoked in her life, and it was like 400 tons or something. Like
something absurd. But when we get back to the hotel room, it was just like, the fuck is this? It's oregano. It's like, well, of course, it's a fucking, like, felony, and you'll go to jail forever in Vegas.
Yeah, it's harder to, yeah. She's lucky it wasn't oregano, which is my fentanyl pizza topping.
Yeah.
So that's the wedding. I wanted to talk about that and our trip to Vegas. I think, like, that covers it pretty well. It was just, like, generally a lot of fun, and it's been 1 year, baby, and everything's good so far. And it's also
sad I couldn't go. I waited too long to buy my tickets. So.
That's fair. I mean, it was a bit of a, like, because it's like you either have to rent a car or hope that, like, you have some plan figured out with everybody. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't. That's kind of where we were like, everyone's on their fucking own. Like, if you can manage, please come, and we'll have a wedding.
And you did.
And we did. And
here we are a year later.
Yes. Yay! And we recently got the pictures.
Yeah.
From the thing.
Oh, I need to see those.
Yeah, and we should show Meredith. Let's see.
Haha, but not the rest of you.
No, you don't get to see. Well, maybe we'll put them on. It'll be like the end of the Jackass movie where we see all the old pictures. I don't remember what song, though. Whatever, who cares? Let's see. I was going to dedicate part of this episode also to the recent discovery in what should surprise fucking no one that I have ADHD. Like, not where I'm like, maybe I do a little and I conned my doctor into giving me legal speed. I mean, like, my doctor and my therapist were both kind of like, yeah, duh. Like when I started bringing it up, and it came out the absolute most. As fun and as awesome as my job is, it is still like a job where you go and sit and you have things to do. And I like the things that I do, and I like the people that I'm around, but I got very used to working on my own in my home studio where there's no other people most of the time. And I realized I had such an impossible time. There was suspicious signs probably all my life, really. But that it's beyond like I'm a little eccentric and wild. It's like, no, you have this thing that people sometimes have. And more people have gotten diagnosed as adults. Like
everyone in this room.
Yeah. And it's like, what a shock. Like with all the like the crazy, like it was like, oh, they're like the creative loud kids are like that all seem to find each other. It's like all kind of have the same sort of
or the creative like silent kid. That was me.
Or yeah, you know. But I would just dare say that more like a lot of people in our orbit would probably fall into the same category.
Yes.
You know, if you're, you know, I would say like, yeah, look into it. Like if you've ever been in a band at all, and by you know, but it needs to be like a punk band. It can't be like, yeah, man, we play covers and you know, we played in the worship band. It's like, yeah, you probably maybe don't have ADHD. You might just be a musician. Now, it's put everything in a different light, though, where I'm like, you know, because for a long time I've had this sort of, not gripe, but there's musicians, and then there's who want to talk about their guitar pedals and things like all day long, and then there's me, and then there's a lot of other people I've been friends with who are like, and we're all, you know, it's like we know how to do music and everything, but it's almost like just part of this ball of insane wax. And then also I, you know, could probably, looking back to when I was a kid, the unsurprising things, it's like, well, you get A's in everything you find interesting, and then F's in everything else. So you're half lazy on your mother's side, or whatever the brilliant diagnosis they would have come up with back then. Rather than like, oh, you might actually have this thing everyone has, but it's the late 80s, early 90s, and everyone's mostly afraid that we're over-prescribing kids with that. So you will just have a grim and dark future rather than like being some sort of wild, like, I don't know. If I was able to focus in school on all the boring stuff, I would probably be the richest person any of us know. But I can't do that kind of thing. I mean, I kind of can now. Although to be fair, like, I'd still rather be like making videos and graphics and stuff at a job in an office, which the Adderall helps me to do. I don't think I can Adderall myself into just looking at spreadsheets for 9 hours a day. I think that might be impossible, and I think that I'm fine with that. I was
gonna say, maybe that does that for like a regular brain, you know, because it just acts like speed. So yeah, you can look at spreadsheets all day, but you know, if it's actually doing its job, there's no fucking way.
Yeah, and I also have this thought, and I believe that probably all of us here fall into this like a bit, where Alexis was listening to a podcast, and this will stick with me forever. It was before we were all that certain that I was afflicted with ADHD. Again, hindsight is very much 2022. Mm-hmm. But they were talking about how, like, oh yeah, sometimes, you know, having ADHD, you it almost mimics what it's like to be extremely intelligent or a creative. Like, well, it's like, wait, what if you have ADHD and are also that? What would that look like? Or do a lot of people with ADHD happen to be a little bit too smart for our boring humdrum world and get a little sidetracked by anything that's not the worst, boringest thing ever that they demand you spend all your time on in exchange for money so that you can buy goods and services? I don't know. I will never have the answer to that.
But that's exactly it, because ADHD is interest-driven. Your brain is interest-driven. If you're not interested in it, you will not compute any of it.
And that's a thing. It's a thing many generations of parents just refer to as you being a bad little child who will not focus on algebra like most children will.
That's common with ADHD is dyscalculia, and that is
I have that.
You definitely have, which was also like a sign that I forgot to mention to you when you asked me about it. And I'm like, dyscalculia.
Yeah, and if anybody's wondering, no, it is not the mascot for a spooky chocolate cereal. It is, in fact, because it sounds like Count Chocula.
Yes.
And if you're dyslexic, you might... Okay, good.
Don't explain it.
I know, I was just testing my laugh track. So, but yeah. Dyslexia we've known about for a long time. And
I'm Alexis.
No, yeah, my wife is dyslexic. It's like it's pronounced Alexis. There's some stupid joke in there. Alexis. So, yeah, I definitely do have this amazing thing where it's like dyslexia, but only for numbers. That they discovered long after I was regularly punished all through school. Like I probably was like 29 when they're just like,
trauma.
Yeah, dyslexia or dyscalculia is an actual thing.
You get trauma. You get trauma. You get trauma.
It turns out your child is not failing math on purpose to embarrass you. Yep. They indeed have some sort of, and you know how that's going to reflect on all the neighbors who don't care.
Dyscalculia causes like memory loss, not memory loss, but well, that's a joke in itself.
Yeah, it causes that. What's it? Memory something.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I mean, I can't remember numbers. That's for goddamn sure because that's, you know, again, I have to keep looking back at it every 3 seconds because I can't hold it in my head, which makes, important things like long division that, of course, you wouldn't just use a computer for very difficult. Damning you to only the hottest and noisiest of low-paying jobs.
I had another word, but it...
Do you remember it now? Oh, okay.
It's gone. No, I went. So we'll just...
It went down. It went down the Adderall, or no, the ADHD hole.
Yeah.
The Rabberall addict. Yeah. I can't do anything with that, and I give up. I am having a stroke. So, a stroke of genius. But yeah, I don't know. Just the thing that I like about it is that, like as an adult, it didn't seem weird at all to like kind of look for help with that. And honestly,
the thing you like about what? ADHD?
Not ADHD, but how do I want to put it? The thing that I'm okay... Yeah, I shouldn't say like. You're right. I should say the thing that I'm okay with about discovering this is that it's like, okay, well, like, it's not just nothing then. It's like when I was having trouble sitting still for a job that I actually really like. I was like, oh, man, is there no hope? And it turns out, oh, you can't really sit still for anything, even stuff you do like for all that long. You actually need help. And a thing that I like about perhaps maybe myself is that I'm not afraid to ask for it. As much as I do seem to have my pride and some very like, I don't know, people who are way less smart than me accuse me of having an ego. But I'm not afraid to go, hi, my brain's broken, can you help me please? Rather than being like, I'm too good for this. I can raw dog my way through reality, unaided.
Well, you have something also working in your favor. You have a penis.
It works occasionally, and in my favor somewhat. No, I know, yes, it's easier when you're a man to get, I don't know, anything out of the medical community, industry, whatever. They tend to believe you. When you're a woman, it seems as if you are almost always stuck in the starring role of Rosemary's Baby. And that's terrifying, and I don't know what that's like. Although, if I were to make a comparison, I imagine it would be somewhat like if I were abducted for very real by aliens, fire in the sky style tomorrow, and it fucked my life up so much that I, developed a stutter, and everyone was like, what's your deal? And I'm like, I was abducted by aliens. I go, okay. And, no one will help me, and no one will believe me. My alien abduction made-up story is what real life for most women when they're going to the doctor is like. And that is terrible, and a bad thing about our society. Alexis had a devil of a time getting diagnosed with ADHD because they're like, oh, maybe you're just nervous because you're not pregnant. Or whatever. They didn't really say that, but it sounds like something they would say. It's like, oh, I see your problem. You're hysterical. It's lack of babies, probably.
Basically.
It's like, well, when you're not a mother, sometimes you get a little antsy. Yeah. It's hard to pay attention. Have you tried getting pregnant?
Spread awareness.
That's what I'm doing in my roundabout wacky way.
No.
Yes.
I'm yelling this at the people on the camera.
They should. They can almost kind of hear you when you talk, according to the audio mixing.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at that too. I'm wondering how much that's actually getting picked up.
Well, I did adjust it. I realized that it can go all the way up into the red without distorting, and that's where it needs to be. So when I do upload these, I actually don't even fuck with the audio anymore. It comes out a lot better on its own. The only drawback is that when I yell, it sort of comically distorts a little bit. That makes it sound like I'm yelling even more irately than I really am. Not really a drawback. It's just,
I think that's better.
Like when I'm like, oh, for God's sake! Like that's going to be a little distorted. So that's fun.
It's a good touch for just the people that just listen and...
Yeah. listen to me
sure they love it.
scream into this thing. Or my brilliant plan, whereas the microphone is for both of us, and I'm loud, and it's right in front of me. But it actually does pick you up.
You don't have an ego or anything, right?
Well, I do 90% of the talking on the podcast named after me, so, like, I mean, what do you want? An answer that both makes me feel better and validates your statement? Because you'll get one.
I want you to continue doing the talking, because you're the interesting one.
Well, thank you, Meredith. That means a lot to me. So, you know what? I'm going to end this with a funny thing that happened at work story, because those are always good. And today, so for those that don't know, I don't know who I work for. I think I work for a company called Data International, because that's who's on my checks, but I work in a building that they own called Stone Arch Glass Studio, which is where my boss's office actually is. But I also think part of that building says Data International on it. There's a lot of, when you own a business, you got to have a lot of wacky things going on. But either way, I tend to be around a lot of the day. My boss, who is the owner of this company and several other smaller companies, and he has cameras just all over every inch of everything. And the way, I have several around this house on the outside. My friend Bernard, I don't remember how many he said he had, like 16 or something. Like, because he had ones like inside his garage just in case. Like, Bernard has a lot of cameras. And similarly, yeah, so does Wally all around where I work. And so people notice that occasionally. And this actually happened to us. Like, we met one of our neighbors for the first time because his truck got stolen out of the alley, and he was like, "Hey, I noticed you have a camera." And then we found him. He got his truck back, and then we made a new friend. So, yeah, if you're like, "I don't want to be part of the surveillance state," maybe you'll make some new friends if you do. But yeah, so there's like an apartment building kind of or something across the street, and this lady like called, like someone else at work in the office area was like, someone's calling and said all 4 of her tires got slashed and wondering if we got any of it, like, on camera.
Yikes.
So then Wally got really excited, and I mean, frankly, so did I, to be like, ooh, like, all right, like, here, like, what time does she, think it happened at or whatever. And the camera, you could set it up so there's, like, this big TV screen in where I am, and you can look at everything on there that you want to based off of this one phone that a lot of things run through that's usually sitting out. And so we were like zeroing it in, narrowing it down, and like going by really fast. And you could see like in fast forward, like all of a sudden, like the car like went like that. Like that's when the tires got slashed. And it was like in between too, there was like cops were there like beforehand, like all this other stuff. And there's this other car that's like lights sitting on outside. There's like all this. She's like, man, there's a lot of shady stuff. Well, that's why I have the camera. So like, yeah, it's probably a good idea. Good point. And yeah, we finally zeroed in on it. And we found this person that we thought was a dude, but I was like, it looks really short, but it might be a short little angry guy. But like walked around the car and just slashed all 4 tires without hesitation or a stutter or any or looking around. Just like slash, 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 and went storming away. And I'm like, okay, someone's done this before. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
We're like, what is that? So then we're like, here. It was Spencer. Like, can you call the lady back? And he's like, okay. Like, tell her to. It's like trying to save it instead. Just tell her to come in. She can film the screen with her phone or something or whatever. So like, okay. So she comes in because she again lives across the street and had obviously wasn't about to go anywhere because she had 4 flat tires.
Oh.
And we figured out that we were like we watched it a few times. We're like, oh, that's a chick.
Yeah.
Like that is actually a chick in like a hoodie. Which makes it even wild. Like a
I thought you were going to tell me it was like a little kid.
That, I mean, I don't know. Like, little kid would have been pretty hard. I mean, like a diminutive woman who went around and slashed all 4 tires. Like,
Scoring, man.
It didn't even look like she was really doing anything, but they were all slashed. Like, I wouldn't have believed it. I'm like, oh, it looks like she just rubbed a knife. I was like, no. She managed, because tires are hard to do that to. It's particularly without breaking your knife or, like, get stuck for a second. So it's like, so I'm like, well, this person's like a fucking animal. And so anyway, yeah, the lady comes over. And we're like, do you recognize this person? We're like, well, he's like zooming it in. We're like, yeah, like by the way, this is like 2 hours of work today. It's like, hey, it's like helping my boss solve the mystery of the slashed tires across the street.
That's so much fun.
And it was a lot of fun. And so she's like, oh my God, that's a woman. That's my neighbor. And we're like, why
would she do that to you?
Oh, that shit.
So apparently, and then so she gave us the story. She did.
Yay!
And it was that.
I said.
Yeah. That's her neighbor in the same building, and they live, like, upstairs. And apparently, like, her and her, I don't know, boyfriend or whoever lives up there get into these, like, domestic level, like screaming matches and fights. And she said that one time someone shoved someone or body slammed them or something so hard upstairs that the light in her bathroom, like, fell and broke, like, on the floor, like, on the linoleum or whatever. And, like, really bad. So she went up there and was just like, hey, like, is everyone okay up here? Like, what's going on? And they're like, like the dude like shoved her and left, and then she's like, no, thanks for checking on me, I guess. And they're all weird about it. And then someone else, and I think they thought it was her maybe, called the cops. And it's like, that's what domestics are like, though, because everyone else at work was like, yeah, but she was like trying to help her, and it's like, no, that's a real ride or die bitch. It's like they go through their thing, and then they're like, yeah, but he's got a record. You can't be calling the cops on him, and now, now that the fight's over, we're back all in love again or whatever. And so she got all angry and went and, like, slashed the tires. And we zoomed in with the other cameras and found, like, she's like, Wally, she's like, do they have a dog? Because he was, like, putting a dog in the car. It's like, they do. Oh, that is them. And, like, they left last night, and they just, like, went and, like, slashed her tires. I'm like, yeah, I was like, but I was like, hey, you need to, like, Wally was like, well, you need to call the cops. It's like, well, she was like, they're not going to do anything. And I'm like, well, I don't know, threaten them and that you're going to or something. And I was like, I don't even know if I would, like, you might have to, like, move or kill these people was my thought. Because, like, they're clearly weird meth heads. And the way she slashed those tires, that is someone that's, like,
skill that's done it many times.
Didn't even look over her shoulder. Like, yeah, you're dealing with people that are going to be, like.
And they think you have it out for them.
Yes.
So it's like, no, it's just, it's on all the time. Anything that happens to them, it's because of you.
She seemed wise. She was just like, the lady we were talking to was like, okay, like, I think I see, like, this is going to be a big thing. Which is lucky for her, because there's obviously kind of like a vein of personalities weaving through humanity out there that are like, well, just wait until they find out that I know it was them, and I'll be informing the police. So they're like, oh no, they're going to put everything right. It's a good thing you spoke up, because speaking up to your rich parents or your private school is always the way to get the problem solved that were happening to you. Just like it will with meth heads in real life. Like, you people have been doing things that are wrong, and I'm now going to inform the people who will make it right, and they're just going to kill you in your sleep. Like, you don't want to do that. What you want to do, and this is what I offered, was to print out a fake prescription label that just has anyone's name on it or whatever. And that just says Percocet on it. But we fill it with whatever, rat poison, fentanyl, doesn't matter. Whatever you can find. And we just leave it where they can find it. And eventually, they will die. And you didn't really have to swing a butcher knife or pull a trigger.
Man, we shouldn't be, like, telling people how to murder people on a podcast.
No, I told her how in real life and admitted to it on a podcast. That's a different thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I go, the person not on camera is now going to leave the room to make herself safe from this. I may not have actually said that. I may only have thought it. But if you're listening to this and you're dealing with meth head neighbors, don't try that, because it's a bad idea that will never work.
The Reverend John Wheeler Podcast takes zero responsibility for the words, actions, or ideas of its host, guests, or listeners. Though the people on the screen may at times be speaking directly to you and may occasionally give you direct calls to action, neither Reverend John nor the Alchemical Cocktail Lounge are under any moral or legal obligation to answer for the potentially disastrous repercussions that may arise if you are stupid enough to actually follow the orders of a raving lunatic. Think for yourself and do whatever you want, because you're on your own. If anyone ever tries to sue this podcast, black SUVs will converge on your location in the darkness of night, and you will never be seen again. Remember to like and subscribe.